Hi there, it's Jonathan Herps again, founder and CEO of Scale Up Growth Partners. Welcome to our Stories of Scaling Up series, where we chat with owners, managing directors, founders, and business leaders of scaling companies. It centers around their entrepreneurial journey so far and their aspirations for their companies. Today, I'm speaking with Mandy Sigaloff. Is that how I pronounce your surname, Maggie?
That's correct, Jonathan.
Mandy, I should say. I apologise. Who's Managing Director of TaxAssist Accountants Australia. So thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me. Nice to be here.
Yeah, no, great. So, Tilson, why don't we just start? Tell me what you and the business do and how long you've been doing.
Yeah, so I was one of these people who decided to start a business or start this particular business in COVID. So that was an interesting time to, decide to do something new. I'm actually from a media and marketing background. So I've owned a media company. I've done e-commerce consultancy and built some e-commerce businesses. And this opportunity came up. I saw a real gap in the market during COVID when, retail was very quiet, advertising was quiet, and thought, great, I'm going to bring this concept, which is a UK concept, over to Australia. So it is actually a UK company, but we've actually licensed the brand to bring it here. And what we do is, what our mission is to really put not just an accountant, but a tax advisor, a business advisor in every small to medium-sized business community within Australia, where we used to have the old bank managers that used to sit there and, the first thing you would do is you start a business and you would pop in to see your bank manager to open your bank account. All of that is online now, which really has left this void of advice. You've got probably one of the most complex tax systems in the world. You've got fair work people have to comply with. So it's an opportunity for people who are qualified accountants to actually start their own accountancy business within their community. And with new businesses up 40% year on year in ABN registrations, it's definitely needed, I think, at the moment. And out of that, the latest Zero figures, I think it's about 48% of new ABNs being registered at the moment are for people who were not born in this country. So, wow. Which is quite an impressive stat. And, where do they go to get their advice from? So, sorry, a bit of a long answer there.
No, it's a good answer. So you started when?
I started it'll be 2 years in October.
Fabulous timing.
And we've managed it, and we've got 7 franchisees offices open now during that time, which is fantastic. All of them doing very well. And really helping the small businesses in their community, which is brilliant.
Congratulations. So I take it you're not an accountant?
No, I'm not an accountant. Can I just say all of our franchisees are accountants, definitely. But my expertise really is media, marketing, growing businesses. So, we have a technical team here, obviously, to support the accountants. We work very closely with a guy called Peter, who runs Advisors Digest. He's probably one of the top consultants and experts on things like self-managed super funds and tax here in Australia. And he actually works with our technical team. So we have that technical support, but I run the business side of it. Which is
a true entrepreneur.
An entrepreneur or a worry, as my husband likes to say.
No, congratulations. And I'm going to deep dive a little bit further. So you've got 7 franchisees. Whereabouts are they now?
We've got 3 in New South Wales, and then we've got Queensland, Western Australia, and Victoria, and probably a new one coming up in South Australia at the moment. So they're around Australia.
And what? So I'm jumping around a little bit in my questions, but so what does the future look like for you? What is your growth plan?
So ideally, I would love to have my 2-year plan would be have at least 100 franchisees on board and working in their communities. We're slightly different to a normal sort of accounting business where we ask people to move into shop fronts. We're very much like a retail focused business, but for accountants.
Right.
So where, the traditional accountant might be in an office, upstairs, walk up some dark and dingy stairs, make an appointment, and you have to go into a room full of paperwork and things. We like our accountants to be in a shop front, like a flight centre. Mm-hmm. Where with lovely comfy chairs, you can pop in, you're a small business owner, you pop in, it's welcoming, it's not overwhelming, and it's all about the customer service and the way that we actually treat our customers, rather than we're just going to minimize tax and, do your tax return. So it's a slightly different spin on it. And, it's worked for 27 years in the UK and it's working here at the moment. I think we all like to be treated well, be appreciated, and actually have our woes listened to, which is, what it's all about. Fabulous. So I'd love to have 100 up and running in the next 2 years. That's the dream.
Fabulous. So, I asked my people I interview, what have you done in COVID? What did you change in COVID that you've kept? Well, you actually started in COVID. So what are the lessons you've learned and what are you keeping in the business going forward?
I think the biggest lesson is connection. We had new businesses join us. They were starting their businesses. We had to really look at the way we did our marketing because people they couldn't work in their shop front. So we did actually have to change our marketing plan. Thankfully, things have gone back to people wanting to meet face to face again, and more so than ever, which is nice because I think it's good for our soul and good for us as human beings to actually interact with each other. But I think the biggest thing was how we supported each other. So each one of these franchisees is their own business. They are just running their own business. But we would have our fortnightly catch-up meetings where, it's basically 5:00 every Thursday. Me or some of the other staff are going to be online and just come and join. And it was an opportunity to discuss, our challenges in the business, but also just to discuss our worries and concerns. And it became, it sounds a little bit cliche, but a bit of a family. Mm-hmm. And the majority of our franchisees and even potential franchisees who were looking at joining us or, saying it's not the right time yet, but I would like to be part of this, we'd invite them to join us as well. So they could get an idea of, how important it is to have support. When you start your own business, it's a lonely journey. And if you can do it with the support of others, it makes it a lot less lonely and a lot more motivational, which, like business coaching and having that support network around you makes it a lot easier. So that was a big learning. And also how we treat our customers. We would do a newsletter at least once a month, but every time there was a new government grant out or, a new JobKeeper announcement, we would send an email out, a newsletter out immediately the next day. Mm-hmm. And we found the feedback we got from our clients and our customers, and people were forwarding our emails to other, clients and friends. They started relying on us to be, to basically put it into simple Australian language rather than, what the government is saying and read this big lot of spiel on another website. So, and that's something that we've kept going as well. We still put together our monthly newsletters. And if there's a big announcement like, when there's, new grants that come out, we just send out an email straight away because it's sort of something that our customers have really started to rely on us for that information. So just being connected, stay connected.
Look, it's really interesting. You mentioned when you're starting a business, it's lonely at the top, but I'm going to tell you, with my clients, any CEO, including me, it's lonely being a CEO and having someone to talk to and having trusted sources of advice, particularly during COVID. But it became, I moved my coaching model. I moved to 1-hour calls for a month as a minimum with my CEO clients, and they've appreciated it enormously and want to keep it going.
Yeah.
Okay, so 200 in the next 2 years. What are the major challenges you see in achieving that?
Oh gosh, staff. I think it's sort of the answer across the board. So. There is, if you have a look at, the list of where you can get visas at the moment to come into Australia, the work visas as the required, the required list. I think it's 44 jobs on there at the moment. 3 of those are accounting jobs. So we have just your normal sort of corporate accountant, your CPA type accountant. There's a real shortage of those. But not only that, and also, our overseas students that have been coming in, quite a lot of them would be accountants or be doing accounting degrees, double degrees or masters. But just not that, is the knock-on effect of that is actually having a qualified tax agent license. A tax agent license is something really difficult to get in Australia. You have to not only have the qualifications, but also the experience. So at least 12 months actually working in a business. And a lot of people who are ready to start their own business are probably in their, late 30s, early 40s. They've got a lot of commitment. They don't want to go and work on a $60,000, $70,000 salary when they've come from a $90,000, $100,000, $150,000 salary for a whole year to try and get experience to actually then open their own business. So it's a really complex issue. So instead of just moaning about it, we've now come up with a TaxAssist Academy that we're going to launch in October.
Yep.
The plan is that we will take qualified accountants. They can stay in their job. If they join us as a franchisee, they have to leave their job and do it full time. This Academy program will actually take them through 12 months of training. We will give them the opportunity to do tax returns, to start talking to people in their community, to start building up a client base, all with our 12-week training program and the support of our technical support team. So after 12 months, they will have enough experience so that they can actually put some of those hours on a application to the Tax Practitioner Board. But also they'll get a real taste for what it's like to run your own business, and also to talk to clients and be that business advisor. Because accountants are not known for their personality and for being really out there and dynamic people. I say that in the nicest possible way. And some people think I would really like to do this, but they give it a go, and it's not for them. But I think with this, we're hoping to get. We've actually done a business plan so we can actually train 40 people up. By the end of next year, 40 people will be able to actually be on this program with full tax agent supervision, with clients that they can work on, real life clients that they can work on, and they can actually earn some money. Not huge amounts, because it's going to be sort of done on the side, I suppose. But we're hoping that will help. And at the end of it, ideally, they will join us as a franchisee and be ready to join a business. Or alternatively, hopefully, we'll be able to employ them in one of our offices if that's what they want to do. And if they decide this is not the career for them, nothing's lost. They've learned a bit. So I think if we wait for the government to fix our problem, we're going to be waiting for a long time.
I agree. If I may, I'm very privileged that in mid-September I'm speaking again at an organisation called eLead, but the Millennial Women's Foundation, I think it's called. But essentially, it's a large number of young. It's me sounding like an old man now. Female undergraduates and postgraduates, mixture of Australian and international. So I'll mention that if you don't mind.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm talking to them about how to be CEOs. So it actually leads straight into the franchise model. So I'll bring that up with the leader. What's your biggest learning, do you think you've had since you've been a business owner? I know you own a number of businesses.
You have to be bloody resilient.
Absolutely.
You also have to be prepared to take those 2 steps forwards and 1 step back constantly. You have one day where you think, this is working, and the next day you go, oh, God, this is, something that you get another, something has gone wrong. And I just think it's a hard journey. And I think some people underrate it and they think, right, I'm going to be my own boss, I'm going to be a CEO, and I'll get that work-life balance. That first 3 years of any new business, there's no work-life balance. It's you sleep, you think about it, you know. I had my wedding anniversary this week, and my husband actually took me away for the night saying, I need some time to talk to you. And I still spent 80% of the time talking about, you know, my latest idea. It really just sort of, you know, I mean, and it's not for everybody. And don't feel that if you do it, and expect some failures, I think, you know, they're not failures, they're just learning opportunities. But, you know, I've had some big ones, I've had some great successes, but also some pretty, some failures as well. And it goes with the territory.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. One of the reasons the coaches in my business, I choose people who've been CEOs, had their own businesses and failures, because it's, you know, great to be a coach and go this way and use this tool and here's, you know, but if you haven't made those mistakes on the way through, you don't have the life experience. Yeah. And I agree that the perseverance is critical.
Yeah, and I think also I feel that we're a bit of ashamed to admit failure sometimes. You know, we go out and we talk about all of our successes, but sometimes, you know, I'm very, very lucky. I have a group of 4 ladies from a company called Heads Over Heels. It's a not-for-profit that I'm involved with. And we still meet once a month. They're all business owners, CEOs. Businesses have failed, but we've supported each other through the thick and thin over the last sort of 12 years of meeting up. And I think just, you know, find your pack, find the people you can trust. And to the outside world, everything's brilliant, everything's great, but, you know, just find some people around that you can be honest with, and who will pick you up and brush you down and help you, you know, move forward again. And as you said, whether that's a business coach, whether that's sort of friends, whether it's colleagues you've met along the way, but you do need somebody, you do need people around you.
And, you know, it's interesting you say that, because I have, you know, within my business, I'm a coach. We have a team of coaches. We've got a mastermind groups, etc. But I actually am a member, separate mastermind of entrepreneurs, business owners, and we meet once a month. There's 12 of us, and you know, because of me, we've got a bit of a structure around the thing. But, you know, we've eaten ups and downs and wins and losses, and where do we need to dive into today to help whoever needs the most help. And it's so valuable. Yeah,
it is. It is.
Yeah. So tell me, when you think of the word successful, who pops to mind first and why?
Oh, again, another cliche. It has to be Elon Musk. Whether you hate him, whether you love him, he doesn't, people are there, they try and put him down, the tall poppy syndrome, you know, and he's stabbed in the back constantly. He's criticized, but he just doesn't give up. He's probably the most, and also his ideas are crazy ideas, you know, and he really finds the most craziest need in the market, and he solves that problem. And you know, I you've got to give it to me. Yes, he is probably a little bit mad, but you have to be a little bit mad, I think, to have achieved and had the ups and downs that he has had to keep going. And he's constantly finding solutions, and I think that's why I admire him so much. And, you know, yes, things don't work, but he will find another way or a different way of doing it. So, yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, and if you think about the multiple businesses he's juggling at any one time, you know, Tesla, SpaceX, the Boring Company is phenomenal. I don't know if you've heard of them. You know, and to attract attention to the Boring Company, he gave away flamethrowers.
I know.
Just extraordinary. I read something the other day about John Doerr, who is, I think I've got the pronunciation right. He is the man behind OKRs as against KPIs. And he was lamenting the fact that he was offered a piece of, the car company, just saying a block. Tesla. In 2017, it's the biggest regret of his life. He didn't take it up. He reckons it'd be worth, he'd be a multi-billionaire all over again just from that one investment. It's quite extraordinary. And the way he's changed the world, really. Tesla. I love it. One of my heroes is Mike Cannon-Brookes from Atlassian. And, for lots of reasons, one of which is that, he credits some of the stuff I coach as one of the main reasons, and around values is one of the main reasons that Atlassian has been so successful. But Mike Cannon-Brookes, there is a fabulous TEDx talk by Mike Cannon-Brookes on imposter syndrome. It's 17 minutes. It is arguably the best TEDx you'll ever listen to. And he's talking about the feeling of an imposter as an entrepreneur. That, every decision we make, we've got this front, we know what we're talking about, and but behind the scenes, it's and he talks about his journey. And he's worth $19 billion, and to this day he feels like an imposter. And he talks about when he challenged Elon Musk to build a big battery in South Australia. And, this was over a Twitter feed, at 1 o'clock in the morning. First thought he was the expert on renewable energy in Australia, and he had to spend a month learning all about renewable energy. But, it's a really, really good lesson of perseverance, and, reinforces the point about Elon Musk, I think.
Yeah. And I've got a Tesla car. It's an old one now because I was like, but and I just absolutely love the car as well. And I can get into it and it's updated overnight. And I've got some new toys to play with. My teenage children find the farting seats very amusing. But and I just love the fact that there is the humour in it as well. It's and it dances and it and there is that humour as well as it's a serious sort of.
So I wasn't aware of any of that. By definition, my children are not going to be allowed to watch this interview. I've got 2 8-year-olds. If my son heard about a farting seat, it's all over Red Rover.
It is, even though I find it revolting, but obviously teenage boys find it hilarious because it comes out of the speaker, so they get their grandmother in the back and make it come out of her speaker. And anyway, we digress. Sorry about that.
It's an interesting one. Have you heard of a lady called Maggie Dent?
No.
Maggie Dent is I suppose she's a psychologist, but she wrote a book called Raising Boys, and one of there's a lot of lessons that have come out of that. I've got 2 adopted children, and one's a girl who's almost 9, one's a boy who's just turned 8, and she talks about the issues of raising boys, and one of the things she talks about is boys coming home from school, they're very tense, they're very stressed. You've got to release the tension. And her advice was roll up the windows and fart. To get the boys to and laugh and release tension. So it's a very good point. Now I'm all over the place with these questions. Are you a reader? Do you listen to podcasts? Anything you'd recommend?
Yeah, dear. I'm not a big reader of motivational books. I read fiction to put myself to sleep at night when I need to switch off. Mm-hmm. And I find that reading for me is something I need to do to switch off from work, and because it's so full on during the day. But I'm a big I listen to podcasts. I start my mornings quite early with a dog walk, and the dog walk is just my way, and I listen to podcasts. So there's a few actually. Because I'm not an accountant, I listen to a couple of accountancy ones called Tax Talks, which is just sort of an update on what's happening. And there's also one called From the Trenches, which is basically a load of accountants moaning about the bureaucracy, and I just find that quite amusing. It's quite nice. But I'm listening to something at the moment. It's called High Performance, and it's from Jake Humphrey. And there is all sorts of sports stars, actors, movie directors, and they all talk about what their definition is of high performance and how, and it's like 45 minutes, I think, each episode, but it's just interesting to hear from different people's point of view of what they would describe as high performance and how they get themselves into that state of high performance and maintain that for many years as, a top footballer or something. So that's probably something I would recommend. And I must admit, we talk about people that we admire. Barack Obama, he again broke through many different rules, and Dreams from My Father and A Promised Land. They're just two books that I read on holiday recently that nothing to do with business, but completely inspiring stories. I think, I do like reading autobiographies as well.
Yeah, same time. In fact, one of the people I was talking on the series a couple of weeks ago, lady, she put me on two books I never would have thought of. One was autobiography, Madam Secretary, and so she was the Secretary of State for Bill Clinton for under 2 terms, and the other one was Elizabeth, the owner of the Wall Street Journal, and she was a housewife essentially, and her husband committed suicide, and she had to take it over. And it's a fabulous read, number one. But number two, I was listening to Jim Collins last week, who authored Good to Great. It's one of the best business research in the last century, and he put her up there as one as a classic example of a level 5 leader. So well worth. That's a great read.
Oh, great! Thank you for that.
Yeah. I'm, as I said at the start of this, I'm learning as much as anybody from this series. Any last piece of advice or parting words for a CEO, founder, aspiring CEO?
So reiterate: find your people and get them around you. The other thing I think is think about giving back when you've got the time. I think I mentioned Heads Over Heels. It's a not-for-profit organisation, and we, through meaningful connections, we help female entrepreneurs scale their business. I've been on the board they actually helped me a lot on my first business when I moved to Australia 12 years ago. And if it wasn't for that network of people who, from the goodness of their hearts, you don't pay to be a member. It's basically, we just identify companies that are ready to scale and through introductions, help them scale. They really did help me a lot in getting my first business off the ground. And now I sit on the board, and I'm really passionate, especially about female entrepreneurs. I do think it's harder for us because we don't have that network that men necessarily have. It's sad to say that, but it really is a little bit like that. It's a lot about who you know and not what you know sometimes. And I think if you can, as a CEO, start giving back, it just gives you a different perception on where you are in your life and what you're doing as well. I think that's important.
I think that's a great piece of advice. I've been on various charity boards, Dignity, a homeless charity board, and something to do with the National Maritime Museum, and some others prior to, and it's so, and I always have at least one pro bono client, because it's, I find it's so important to give back. Here's a challenge to you. As I said to you before we started, I'm loving this series. We're going to continue it, but we haven't had many women on it. So if there are some good, great CEOs out there, entrepreneurs that I'd love to interview them.
Oh my goodness, I could introduce you to some absolutely fabulous entrepreneur female women who are changing the world. Honestly, they're doing some amazing stuff, and I would definitely like to hook you up with a few of these.
Yeah, please. I really love it.
Everything from, I'm going to FinTech Awards tonight, from everything from FinTech to, a lady who has completely changed the world of packaging using sheep's wool to, the way that midwifery works in the country towns that she launched through COVID. Just some absolutely fabulous businesses that are successful and, making money. And and they've all got great stories. So please, look, I'd love to include them. Yeah, I will send you a list and some introductions, definitely.
Fabulous. Mandy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jonathan, for inviting me along. It's been a real joy to speak to you. Really appreciate it. And thank you for inviting me on.
Same. Thank you.